So some of you may remember that last year I did a review of Shrek the Third, and I said it was my least favorite of the Shrek movies. But even with that said, it's still far from one of the worst movies I've ever looked at. Hell, it's far from the worst DreamWorks movie ever made. The same cannot be said about today's subject, though. Shark Tale.
Shark Tale is a 2004 animated movie made by DreamWorks, and what most people assume was made to cash in with Disney's success with Finding Nemo the year prior. And considering the constant feud between Disney and DreamWorks that has occurred over the years, I would not be surprised if that actually was the case. To summarize, the movie is about a fish named Oscar who lies about killing a shark and is soon viewed as a badass protector of the reef, all the while helping a shark who is the son of a shark mob boss because he can't confront his father and his bias against his vegetarian diet. Now, when DreamWorks started, it was intended to be the more mature alternative to Disney, and a lot of their early films reflected that, slamming Disney and their sellout moves like their theme parks, annoying soundtrack singles, and over-merchandising, long before DreamWorks sunk to their low and started doing that with their own franchises. Yeah, movies like this are why a lot of people look down on animated films, what with its overusage of cliched plot elements, forced celebrity appearances, pop culture references, bad puns, and product placement. I did consider reviewing the movie for a while, but everyone's already done it. If I could personally reference some specific reviews I'd recommend, I'd say check out the reviews done by Shafrilla Productions, The Hero of Tomorrow, and The Nostalgia Kid.
Hey, instead of talking about the movie, let's talk about the crappy video game. Yeah, I promised myself this year I'd try to do more video game reviews, and I'm already regretting that decision. Let's just get this over with. This is Shark Tale for the GameCube. Okay, so before we even start this thing, I'm going to take a wild guess and say that THQ had a hand in this, since most of the other tie-in games I've looked at have had their involvement. Oh, well, colored me surprised. This time it's Activision.
Alright, so we begin the game by being thrown into the action as we play as Oscar trying to fight some demon-possessed shark, or at least I think he is since he has red eyes, and get used to these graphics, people. Yeah, you thought the movie's designs were already bizarre? Imagine seeing them put into a Gen 6 video game console render engine. No, it turns out that it was actually just a dream, and Oscar wakes up and finds out that he's being evicted from his apartment.
I warned you! You misran again, and I caught a repo fish! Take it away, boys!
It's a sandwich, baby! We can work this out!
Because when you think of a game made for children, you immediately think dodging eviction notices.
This then leads into the next level proper, as you're supposed to collect all the items from your apartment as they're being dropped down below, as well as collecting these pearls, which serve as some kind of valuable, as far as I can remember from the movie. It basically serves as one of those catch as many items before they touch the ground type of levels. It's here where you get used to the controls, and yeah, they're pretty bad. For the most part, they're pretty loose, but there's this weird pattern where if you hit the analog stick in any given direction, Oscar just miraculously speeds up like crazy, and you often end up colliding into other characters or even parts of the scenery. Thankfully, the background characters don't cause too much damage, but it still takes some getting used to.
Hey, I just realized! Stuff happens when I press the action button near them lovely exclamation mark!
Oh god, you're gonna be all throughout the game, aren't you?
Of course he is. Crazy Joe here often appears at the beginning of levels to let you know how the controls work for each stage. Like, after you're done collecting the items being thrown out of your apartment, we then have to stop these dumb fish kids from graffitiing.
Well, clearly, someone should have shown these kids Hammerman, then they would know the true horrors of graffiti.
Anybody like graffiti?
No.
Why not?
It ruined it.
Because most people put it where they're not supposed to. Now,
Okay, well, now that we're done with that, what could possibly be next?
What do you think about sharks near the reef?
sharks, where?
Wait a second. I recognize that voice. Isn't that Phil Lamar?
Who's scared? Sharks? Nah, sharks don't scare me. Bring them on.
Okay, part of me knew they weren't going to get Will Smith for this game, but at the very least, I hope Phil Lamar got a solid paycheck for this.
I'll show them who's scared. I'll show you what I do to a shark, because you know that's what it's all about. This right here. Sound the bell. School is in, sucker. Can't touch me.
Yo, of course. It's a 2000s tie-in game for an animated movie, so of course there's going to be a rhythm dance segment in there. I mean, I guess if they can do the same thing with Polar Express, sky's the limit.
Though unlike the Polar Express game, which had really crappy mid-eye remixes, here they actually use copyrighted music, with the first of these dance segments using Can't Touch This. Huh. Guess I spoke a little soon with the Hammerman reference, didn't I? And yeah, you heard that right. There's more than one of these rhythm segments in this game. There's like 5 of them all throughout. And because it was made to heavily promote the movie, you know one of them is going to use that car wash cover from the soundtrack. After that, you finally get a change of pace as Oscar realizes he's late for work and needs to beat his boss, Mr. Sykes, before he gets there. So now you get this racing style level. You grab onto this taxi-colored fish, and you have to make it to the end of the stage before the timer runs out. Now this would be fine and all, but the controls get ridiculously tight here. It's insanely hard to turn without going off course of where you're supposed to go, and it becomes real hell on your fingers.
Huh. So if you're keeping track at home, we've had a collecting things stage, a rhythm segment, and a race against the clock. What could they possibly throw in next? A stealth level.
Oh man, I gotta punch in without old Sykes seeing me.
Hey, Oscar!
I give him points for thinking outside the box and trying to add variety with the gameplay here, but who would have guessed in a million years that a Shark Tale video game would have had stealth missions? And yeah, I said missions. Just like the dance segments, there are a ton of these all throughout the game.
He's always trying to schmooze the women, but they end up wrapping him around their flippers. The lady turtles at the whale wash have this thing going where he shows them new dance moves, and they giggle like a bunch of giddy schoolfish.
Oh yeah, that's another thing about this game. Intermixed between all the levels, you get these fake interview segments with the characters recounting events from the movie. I mean, I give them credit for not relying on reused clips or trying to crappily recreate scenes from the movie and taking things in a different direction, but believe me, it gets hard to look at these designs after a few of these. Oh, I guess we can add platformer and puzzle games to that list of gameplay styles, since levels 8 and 9 have those too. Another strange thing about this game are how you get power-ups. Now in most games, they're sprawled throughout the level, or they're stored in certain areas. Here, you get extra energy by going into random fish's houses, and they give you a meal.
Oh, it's you! I'm gonna fix you something special!
I don't know how to feel about this. I mean, in Zelda 2 it made sense because you were getting specific items, not necessarily just power-ups. Although, maybe there was something I missed in Zelda 2.
In each town, there's a woman that restores your health. She invites Link inside, and you never see what's happening in there. Is she giving him a potion? Is she performing a magic spell? No, we all know what's really happening. Link is like, you know, getting a little of the old in-out, in-out.
Yeah, maybe there was something I missed.
After a few more of these stealth levels at the Shark Mafia's hideout, which I feel obliged to point out that in the movie was supposed to take place in the wreckage of the Titanic, yeah, we should consider ourselves lucky that this shark wasn't anywhere in sight, we then get one of the many boss fights.
You want to know something that's really weird? Every boss level in this game basically functions exactly the same.
Same amount of difficulty, same gameplay mechanics. Hell, the final boss is even the same. You'd think that they tried to make the big final fight between hero and villain action-packed and really difficult, but no, it's the same as the other bosses. They all pretty much function exactly the same in this beat-em-up style gameplay, similar to the Demon Shark Dream fight in level 1. Land some hit on the individual bosses until their life bar goes down. It's so astounding how this game seems that it has everything and yet feels like it accomplishes nothing at the same time. After another race against the timer and a level where you have to dodge being stung by the Jamaican jellyfish twins, everyone's favorite characters from the movie, you then get...
Okay, I'm going to be completely honest here. The rest of the game is pretty much just all the different gameplay styles I've mentioned up until this point, just in different settings, so I'm just going to try and do a rapid-fire listing of the rest of the game.
Beat-em-up boss fight, platformer puzzle type stage, rhythm segment, another platformer puzzle stage again, another boss fight, race against the clock stage, rhythm segment again, boss fight again, another rhythm segment, race against the clock stage again, final boss fight. Cue ending credits where they just kind of brush over all the attempts at sentimentality in the movie's ending.
And in other news, famed shark slayer Oscar captured more than our hearts today when he brought the rampage of notorious shark boss Don Lino to an abrupt halt at Sykes Whale Wash. Details are sketchy, but a prolonged and frantic chase through the streets of Reef City ended with Oscar trapping Lino in the machinery at the whale wash, subduing the great white.
When he finally accepted his son for who he truly was, and Oscar ended up with Angie, that Renee Zellweger fish, but, I mean, it wasn't really that great when the movie did it, so we weren't even going to try with the game.
If I can mention one thing about any of these levels for a second, the final chase level before the final boss has easily the worst controls in any of these kind of levels. Sure, the other ones had really tight turns, but this one sucks even more because the projectiles are even harder to dodge in this one. Also, it doesn't help that they just now introduced this gameplay mechanic where you can stop and increase your speed. Problem with that is that once you stop, you give Robert De Niro Shark enough time to catch up and get you. So the boost feels incredibly counterproductive to the gameplay in this level.
So that was Shark Tale on GameCube, and wow. Just wow.
The graphics make the characters look even more Uncanny Valley, and it doesn't help that the colors they use make everything look murkier than it did in the movie. The gameplay changes styles every other level, and despite not feeling too long, the game is made up of 24 levels total. Yes, every level, no matter how short, is counted as a level. Even the boss fights are counted as separate levels. I will give them this, in a way, I did appreciate the attempts at variety with the different styles of gameplay, but the controls don't help matters with how tight it gets at points. In terms of crappy tie-in games I've looked at, it's certainly more playable than something like E.T. or March of the Penguins, but it's definitely far from good. I guess you could just throw it on the pile of crappy 2000 tie-in games, right alongside Polar Express.
I mean, at least the Shark Tale movie has some ironic factor in that it can at least be watched as a so bad it's good movie to some people. There's nothing really like that in the Shark Tale video game. I'm the Media Whiz, because One Art Forum wasn't enough.
I would say that I was watching the video game, but with this animation, I would be surprised if this was the video game.